Max, did you see the lobotomization of the classes yet? Yeah, I'm gonna hold my freak out until I play a class that I love, and then I play it and it doesn't play well because I felt like they made it too easy. There's a couple classes I've read that I don't currently play that I'm like, man, I don't know how I'd feel if I played those classes. Like Resto Shaman's one of them. Like if I'm a Resto Shaman, I'm like, I don't know about this. But I would still wait for one reason. Number one, because I think there's a large history of overreacting about a lot of things in World of Warcraft. I mean, I think that's just pretty true. However, with them removing combat add-ons, which is like a whole other thing, but they're doing that, right? And they're going to have to slightly change their content because of that. But the add-ons that were available in combat raised the skill floor a lot, lowered the skill ceiling. And with those going away, the game is going to be harder, right? So maybe shifting some of the difficulty away from your class and into the actual game. It's different, but I don't know if it's bad until I do it. So I'm just going to need to see really how that feels. But really for a lot of people, and I think this would include me, I just think when you really just resonate with a WoW class and it just fucking owns to play, that is what gets you to keep playing. Like, these two things are constantly at opposition with each other. There is making the classes, making any game, not WoW, any game, make the game easier, more approachable, will get more people into the game and be easier to pick it up. But a game with more depth and more challenge, that is going to affect replayability, and that is going to create passionate gamers, passionate customers that want to keep coming back and cannot get what you are giving them from another game. Because it's so in-depth and they've gone through the effort of mastering it to where they feel all of that quality every time they play the game, right? And it's really, really hard to have both. I think if you are a longtime WoW player, and you're a gameplay-focused WoW player, I'm going to point that out specifically because I think a lot of the less gameplay-focused people are just getting housing, so this expansion is just a colossal W for them, right? I think if you're a gameplay-focused player, it is extremely valid to be like, all I care about is me, which, why wouldn't you? Okay, they're making the game more accessible for people, and they're dumbing it down a little bit because it's combat add-on stuff, but I actually enjoyed the combat add-on stuff. I didn't have to go through, what was wrong with add-ons? Oh, you had to download and install them. Well, I already did that. So they're not a problem for me. I update them when the patch comes out. Add-ons are of minimal issue to me. And now add-ons are going away, and not really, but in the combat stuff is going away, which I was cool with. And then now my class is also becoming less interesting. Seeing those people, which would include me, be hesitant and maybe Dobby about the change, I feel like it's totally valid because they're coming directly for what you find fun about the game, right? You have to set up a new UI in a lot of ways. If you're a healer, you might have to set up some new raid frames for the first time in a long time. I like the way my game looks because I've made it that way, you know? Not to mention there's a big unanswered question of what is this game going to look like without all these add-ons? There's a utopia out there where it's pretty close to what it was before, and all the bad stuff about weak auras and shit isn't there. That's possible. Is that going to happen right away? I would say like almost certainly not. But there's a world that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which you will almost certainly have to go through to where it is eventually better overall, right? But it's probably not going to be right away. If you're someone who's thinking in the short term and thinking about just for your own self-interest, which we all are, it could, if you're a routine every season gameplay focused WoW player, if you are not excited by yesterday's news, it totally makes sense. And then I also think it depends on your class. Like some classes, like I'll be real actually, the few classes I play, they sound really fun and they played really well in alpha. I know a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to play them yet, but they're good, right? But I know that there's a few other classes where if I played them and like basically all of the intricacy of the spec is gone, I would be really upset. So I don't know, but I think more than anything, before I really strongly feel anything about this expansion, I'm going to try to play a lot of the content with what just the game is giving you and see if I feel like the game is too easy or something like that. Because like there's one thing I always come back to in PvE. PvE WoW is like so hard. We're in the business of trying to recruit the very best people that can do this, right? To do week 1 mythic end bosses. And I guess for a lot of other people in a more relatable way, maybe people that could do like the highest possible mythic plus keys and stuff. None of us have ever met like a perfect player there, like someone where like they have mastered their class and they literally never mess up and can also call everything out and everything. Like those players don't exist. the true skill ceiling of this game is not reachable at the moment. So, like, that may still be true by simplifying the game, and now you don't have add-ons and stuff. I don't know if that will still be the case. Like, it would be a huge disservice to the game, I think, if, like, now it's possible for so many people to be as good as you can at this because they made it easier. But I also don't think it's likely for that to be true, because the game is just truly so hard. So, I don't know. I'm waiting to see more before I have, like, a crazy strong opinion about it, but this is one of the times where I think going into other alphas and other betas, it's always met with a lot of complaining. And I truly think the WoW community complains about a lot of things prematurely. I don't even think that's arguable. I just think that's just kind of what it is. It's probably just the symptom of a 20-year-old game. But I usually am like, man, everyone's freaking out for no reason. And then sometimes I think I end up being right about that. Sometimes I'm not, but I think sometimes I'm right about that. This time, every time I'm seeing someone complaining, I'm like, yeah, I get it. There's very little complaining I've seen over the last day or so on Twitter or other places where I think it's coming from a place of just being misinformed or just wanting to complain or just not basically hating change or not understanding what's happening and then just being mad. I think every bit of complaining I've seen, especially from the high-end community, which is the one we see the most, right? Like, as much as we'd like to believe it to be otherwise, like, there's just such a large position of people in this game that we'd never hear from, and they dictate a lot of the game's direction, and we just literally never hear from them. And you seem to think you know how everyone feels about something because you have a very tailored, like, social media algorithm in the Twitch streams you watch, paint an opinion of, like, the player base, which is actually extremely small and very narrow focus in the game. So you can get tricked sometimes into how people in the game really feel. But I think, I actually do think that the stuff I've heard from the high-end community as far as, you know, freaking out that the complexity in the game is gone, I just think it's totally valid, personally. It's a valid concern. In fact, and I think you should do it, because when do things get changed? If you feel like they're truly bad. And clearly Blizzard's open to it. Look at the dev note for Resto Shamans yesterday. They didn't say we're removing Healing Surge and they're done with it. They said we're going to closely monitor feedback on whether this is a good idea. So if you guys are playing Resto Shaman on the beta and you're like, we lost too much stuff, scream at them that is the case, because you could get it back. I don't think a lot of this stuff is final. One thing that's true about this alpha, especially compared to War Within released an alpha that was an alpha in its name, but not in its function. It was a basically completed game. It was very finished. It was, like, really surprising when we played it. This is not. This is an alpha true and true. I think they've even said that. Where, like, they really want our feedback because this game is not done yet. Like, it's going to feel like an alpha because it is. So because of that, we have 6 months to make some changes. So if you guys are playing a class, and because here's one thing I also don't think is true. Do I think some classes got too much removed and are going to be too simple to play? Yes. I don't think that's true both on average or for everyone. So if there are classes that specifically feel like they've had their identity taken away, or like the gameplay is just so foreign and not as fun, you guys should be telling them that every day on the forums or in any way. It doesn't really matter where you give the feedback. So that guy you saw in the stream yesterday, Kyvax, part of his job is getting information from Reddit, Twitter, YouTube comments, MMO Champion, anywhere, WoW forums, like any place you can give an opinion on WoW stuff, Twitch streams, Twitch VODs. That stuff is just directly given to the people that can act on it. So just be loud if your shit stinks. Yeah, apparently also on Blue Sky. Fucking rip your takes on Blue Sky. I have people saying classes are already too easy, and I don't know how to kindly ask them, if it was so easy, then why can't you kill things with my keys? Okay, I think that person might not just be stupid. Like, you're saying, like, anyone who says a class is easy but ever makes a mistake ever, you can't say that because if it was so easy, you wouldn't have made that mistake. I think that's kind of a bad take, because there are two parts of the game that are challenging you at once. It is everything that's trying to kill you, everything that's happening in front of you, the stuff you're trying to kill, and then there's the difficulty of just playing your class. But when they're saying my class is too easy, they may not even be saying they're upset that it's not difficult enough. They might just be talking about it's not fun enough. They could be saying this class isn't really challenging me. This class isn't making me feel anything when I play it. You know, as much as people like to say it's all about damage or whatever, if you were genuinely playing a class that, like, used the one button rotation, or actually pressed not 2 buttons, not 3 buttons with a proc, but 1 button, bro, at a certain point, if you have any respect for yourself, that just isn't going to be challenging enough to entertain you. It's going to get old. So when they're saying that, when they're saying my class is too easy, they might be complaining that their class isn't as fun. They wish it was more challenging. Some classes are too challenging. Some classes are not very challenging. And there's a lot in between. Now they're seeming to overall across the board reduce complexity, but also with them choosing to remove add-ons, they might not really have a choice. Like, it's kind of hard to keep everything the same difficulty, remove add-ons that help you, and then expect it to not be like... Because, like, probably worst case scenario is they make this change and the game is way too hard and people just give up. They have to have some give somewhere. I'm actually interested in seeing what classes... Like, if we could make, not a tier list even, or maybe a tier list would be a good way to do this, and just rate how much easier they got. So, like, the highest tier would be this class got relatively way easier, and stuff at the bottom would be this class is the same. Stuff in the middle would be they made some minor changes, but it's like a little easier or something. Because it is not the same across the board. Like, I promise you, no matter how simple you think your class is after these changes, Resto Shaman's got it worse than you did. It's insane. You should when you get alpha access, you should watch a stream today of someone playing Resto Shaman. It's insane. They actually press like 3 buttons to heal. That's it. Max doubt. Go look at Fire Mage. It's actually 2 buttons. Damn. Max, do you think it's to bring in new people that think the game may be a little too in-depth to start? What, these changes? So I don't know, and maybe Blizzard can answer this, but my theory is they are more likely to make changes, make like the game generally simpler. I think because they're removing add-ons. Well, it's all circular, right? Why are they removing add-ons? In my opinion, that is majorly for new players. But because they're removing add-ons, I think they're making the game simpler to play because they kind of have to. Like, I don't think the primary motivation to make things simpler is to get new players in the game, although it does help that. I believe it's because of add-ons, but then they're also getting rid of add-ons because of the new player thing. So I think new player is one element. But I would say the majority element of specifically the simplification is like the add-on thing. Piss off your player base that's been with the game for years in lieu of new players. Yeah, it's a decision for sure. Not to mention, though, I do think removing add-ons isn't purely for new players. Like, I actually think maybe one of the main motivations for... And again, I'd say getting rid of add-ons is not the best way to phrase that, because that's actually not what's happening. But getting rid of, like, the combat add-ons, I guess, not anything UI based, but just combat add-ons, I do think that removing those could be a positive for people who do play the game, and I think their motivation might be for people who play the game. People have been complaining about that for years. Every time I get to a boss where a weakor is solving everything for us, I want to blow up. I hate that. Our guild hates that. Have you guys ever logged on to have you guys had your Fractalist weakor not work? That is the least fun thing ever, right? Like, that is not purely for new players. Like, that is an issue in the game, right? That exists. It's not completely baseless to remove that. But didn't Ian himself say that people ask for changes and when they come, they complain about the changes? Same can be said with people not wanting add-ons. Think this was the interview with you? Well, I don't know if Ian said that, but isn't that objectively true? WoW players ask for changes, but then complain the changes come? That happens all the time. That happens with people all the time. Also, but you can look at that one way. You're assuming like all WoW players want the same thing. What's possible is you have all of the, let's just use that example. You have all of the anti-add-on people that say they want these combat add-ons removed, which includes me, by the way. I would love for those to be gone. And then you have people who never really felt that strongly about it. And then now those people are complaining today, regardless of if the other people are complaining, the people who asked for it. And to Blizzard, it can seem like people are complaining either way. They're asking for it and complaining, but it actually could be 2 separate groups that both asked for it and then complained about it. But there's so many WoW players that you would feel it either way. But are there people that asked for it and are also complaining about it? Yeah, but also, is it possible that people wanted combat add-ons removed, but didn't know the cost? The cost of removing combat add-ons is a lot of other stuff is going to stop working too. But when they asked for those to be removed, they didn't know that that was part of the deal. That's why private ors existed. They tried other ways to fix this before this, right? It didn't work. I love reading chat and you just get like 2 different shit. This guy goes, I'm afraid this change is going to be very bad for the game. And then 2 messages later, someone with like 9 numbers in their name just rips, "One button is the bomb." I fucking love memes, man.